chains, 2 horses, I ride them both at the same time. Put rims on my saddle, cause I love horses and can't drive. Make country music, I probably should. I'm the trap Doc Hollywood. All I sell is lassos, fuck Jezebels and make Molly music. Took my horse to the old town, smashed every girl in the whole town. Invite them over, they get naked. It's not an orgy, it's a hold down. Picked her up at the salon, dropped her off at the salon. My new name, City 2 Guns, and a long sleeve, I still bear arms. It's sushi, smoke a doobie while I'm in the Western movie. Got your lady on my saddle and I'm rubbing on her booty. Cut the hair off my horses, give it to her for her weave. Either you will understand or you end up under leaves. Got an ace in the hole, we can get the guns blazing. When I pull this pistol out, you'll say, what entire nation? I will kill you in a battle, then go round up all my cattle. I got spurs on my rollie, I got hundreds in my satchel. I go where I want, I'm good. I'm in the Wild West, the hood. Yeah. Go baby on baby, me and my cowboys kidnapped the plug. Just sent off a pack, now I'm sitting, chilling, drinking rodeo juice. I got your bitch getting loose, butt naked, cooking in my caboose. Yeah, making me moonshine, green peppers, sauce and noodles. She give me head, neck, and mouth, the whole kit and caboodle. Next nigga that try me, I'm capping him. Bitch, I'm getting too old to be smacking him. I'm tying him up and dragging him. Brand his face and shackle him. Bitch, I'm riding down Rosecrans on a thoroughbred in the Wild West Coast where the sheriffs want us dead. Got Shireen right beside me and we're riding to the valley and okay, so at this part, I want you to put a South African Gelderland horse making a neigh sound. When I come back in on my 3rd bar, I want you to screw my voice, add a gunshot, and put the opening monologue from Back to the Future 3. But make sure you translate it to Mandarin, not English, Mandarin. I rode into town on a horse with no name. 21. She called me Scarecrow. I said, bitch, give me brain. Straight up. I keep 2 revolvers. I got 12 for your posse. Bitch. It's 4L gang, nigga. I put hoes in your cassie. Snitch. Chopper on my hip as I ride through the mountains. 21. Yo, bitch gave me head. I said, not while I'm counting. Oh, God. A nigga can't punk me, cause bitch, I'm too gangster. Straight up. I keep a 6 shooter in the back of my Wranglers. Bitch. Took your girl to the old town. Got a singer like Motown. I was smashing this since the 90s. We used to play Samurai Showdown. Now we play X videos, cause I'm her special buddy. Heal. But I fuck with all types of hoes. The good, the bad, the ugly. Man. Niggas acting like varmints. I turn their ass into targets. Bam. My revolver rotisserie, a nigga like Boston Market. The marathon continues, mo. I could do this all day. Bitches see it's my season. Now here come all the old bays.
I wouldn't tell someone, well, you should just cut off all of that. Don't do anything, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just hoping that maybe Jimmy has some better
I got
advice.
that. No, so the interesting thing here is I actually can empathize with this a little bit more than some of the calls that come in from other religions, because Mormonism is such usually a specific experience that's usually unique. However, the tightness of the fundamentalism is such that it's the same. I mean, I won't say I can say for sure I know what it's like to be a Jew in Israel who doesn't want to be Jewish anymore. That's a specific experience too, and I wouldn't try to say something quite so. But I can empathize.
Not even technically Jewish, if I may interject.
Oh, sure. Sure.
My
oh, you said Orthodox.
My father, right? My father was a Jew.
Sure.
My mother is a Christian. So according to Judaism, I'm not a Jew, and according to Christian, I'm maybe if I was baptized.
Right.
Question mark. So
Right.
So I'm in a gray area where, according to the
Yeah.
laws of my own country, I am a second-grade citizen. I am
Sure.
I am not allowed by law to marry a Jewish partner unless I do it abroad, and then the country has to respect it based on international agreements and all kinds of lunacy like that. So yeah.
I assure you, I would love to go on like. This is one of those tricky things that because of anti-Semitism, I can't generally talk about my full feelings about Israel in general without YouTube being like, is he going fascist on us right now? And I'm not. But yes, clearly there are systemic issues there. Clearly, I mean, there's issues with that and modesty and everything. The only advice I can give you is sort of tangential to the advice I would give a Mormon who is going to leave Mormonism amongst a heavily Mormon community, because there is what you were describing about it can have repercussions to work. That's huge. If you live in, not even if you just live in Utah, if you live in Idaho and you're tight in your Mormon community, if you live in Wyoming, if you live in Montana, there's a good chance your employer is somebody you met at church. That's because they are that sort of way about things. There's a good chance that most of your friends, the people that you take your kids to visit, and the like kids that they play with, their parents, and the kids that people you're willing to leave your kids with, you're probably not just losing. This is why I say when you leave Mormonism, you leave your life and you start looking for a new one. So of course it's devastating to leave Mormonism. Mormons will act like it's this tremendous, obvious pointing to the truth of like, well, how come so many ex-Mormons are so miserable? But they only are usually thinking about the people who are freshly out of the church, who just lost their friends, in many cases lost their
religious
family.
trauma.
Yeah, lost their family, lost their jobs, or lost how well they're treated at their job. Not to mention the way that their genuine identity might be being emerged, and now they're being shamed for wanting to see what it's like to express themselves in a queer fashion, wanting to see what alcohol is like. Because if you no longer believe, there's literally no reason not to try. Like, so now they're also going into these giant shame spirals. So the same advice I give to everybody in your situation and theirs is the most important thing to you right now is other community. And it sounds maybe overly simplistic, and yet every time I sort of interrogate people on it, they're not doing much of it. It's really, I'm waiting to see if a secret community emerges among my community, instead of, even if it starts on a subreddit or a Discord chat or going somewhere online. And I always recommend people start with a hobby. And I used to say start with atheist groups. Turns out there's a bunch of fascists in there too. So not every atheist group's going to be great. You got to find the right atheist group. Maybe look for more things like secular humanist groups. I would say skeptic groups too, but I left a skeptic group that didn't even know I was lurking on Facebook not too long ago, because they were starting to go down like some fucking tarot and astrology bullshit. And I was like, I thought this was a skeptic group. The fuck is this place? So now I'm finding my favorite communities, and it's in a way that is affecting. I've thought about transitioning my entire life and career to purely woodworking about 1,000 times in the last 3 years. If I ever wake up and have that big of an existential crisis and I'm ready to do it, I know the first 5 people I'm calling, and I've met them in woodworking communities. So it's literally...
Please add me to that list. Yeah, I would love to go.
Hell yeah. Come on, man. Oh, man, you and me, a guy from Israel, a woodworker... I've heard about. There's a famous woodworker from Israel that I've heard of. I don't remember his name.
Honestly, what you said about finding a new other communities, and I mean that's largely what I've been doing throughout like the last decade, I suppose. Mostly on the internet. It got to a place where I have my little corner with my friends, and we come visit each other internationally. So that's been working out great.
Sure.
And slowly I'm building kind of like this secular or atheist compartment in my life.
Backup plan.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, both of you, and I really appreciate you guys taking my call.
Yeah, check in later. If you find out more stuff, if you find even better advice than that, I definitely need to know it, because I need to share it with other people. Yeah. So if you find more and better, let us know for sure.
All right. I will be in touch. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jimmy, I'd like to know what kind of wood you're working with.
You know, I've been a woodworker for years. You're not going to surprise me
I'm
with
sure
a
that
pun
you
anymore.
have.
You're just going to go with wood you're working with when we're talking about, I've got jokes ready with the fact that I'm constantly lubricating shafts. Okay. I'm just saying where you're starting right now. So much more content. And you just went with the basic woodworking. My goodness.
Of course I did.
My goodness. And then you can
I would
start
know because I'm not
categorizing the
working
woods.
with other people's wood. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's my wood.
So I
I'm
would
working
know all
with.
those details. Oh, okay.
No one else lives here. I'm very alone. It's only my wood that I'm working, but I'm working it.
Okay.
I'm working
I
it.
believe you.
I'm lubing those shafts. Let's talk to Donald in Georgia. Donald is an atheist.
Sorry.
I don't get it at all. Donald, what did you want to talk
Donald, not Donald.
Okay. You're still on your wood puns,
how's
aren't
it going?
you? Hey, Donald.
How's it going, guys?
It's going all right.
Hi.
I think I have an interesting story that you may have never heard before, so much to where Dan Barker is probably going to write my foreword of my book, but that's neither here nor there. I am number 50 of the original 52 members of the Clergy Project, and I am Dave the Missionary in the book from Daniel Dennett, which in London La Scola, and they're actually making to a play in New York next month, but I'm not in it, and I won't go there at this particular point. I'm just sharing this to tell you where I'm coming from.
Yeah, we're talking to a certified badass is what I'm hearing.
This is a story of Christian nationalism and how these Christian nationalists reached out to me and made me their foot soldier. So I grew up as in a small town in Texas, and I was physically, sexually, mentally abused by my mother, physically abused by my sister, sexually abused by her and my cousin. And it brought me to a point to where I basically turned to food to help, self-medicate, and
I know that game.
350 pounds by the time I became 350 pounds by the time I graduated. And so I actively was contemplating on how to end my life. And so I was working at a pizza restaurant, had no perspective, no future. And I happened to work with a guy who just became a Christian, and he began to tell me his story. And I believed hook, line, and sinker. And next thing I know, I'm being baptized and a member of the local Independent Baptist Church there. And the day after I was baptized, the pastor actually gave me a voter's card and, led me to vote, and basically said that, if you're a Christian, you need to be a Republican. And
hey, Donald,
we're talking about the beginning of the war.
Donald, real quick. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I don't want this to come off as rude because the story sounds great. This just might not be the format. Are we heading toward a question and a discussion, or is this more of a you're wanting to call in and share your story? Because if it is, I'm saying a different show. If you contact maybe even Jess, but myself, and shoot an email, we could talk about having you on for sharing the story.
Long form.
But that's not the format of this show.
Well, basically what I'm trying to say is that I conducted war against Christian nationalism, and for years and years, people thought I was in Asia when I was actually in America. And every single dollar they gave me would have gone to someone who was going halfway around the world to convince them and deceive them like they deceived me. And because of that, thousands upon thousands of people had never heard. Thousands of people didn't believe. And so I really don't know what the purpose of the show is outside of, I know that you're atheists, and I agree with you personally. But what I'm trying to say is that, I'm coming out for the very first time saying, hey, I'm Donald New and I'm an atheist. And, so I believe that my story is a story that needs to be told and heard. And I'm going to be on podcast pretty soon, from different, people that you know. And so I just didn't really know, the purpose of the show, and if my particular call doesn't quite fit the genre of that, I do apologize.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really, but I'm not saying it doesn't fit anything, Donald. What I would just say is my email is dearmratheist@gmail.com. You can find all kinds of contact info down at the bottom. basically this show is we're meant to try and be talking to people who either currently believe in God or are in the process of deconverting, who might need some guidance, some questions. So like the last person who was an atheist was asking about how to cope with the fact that there's so many consequences to no longer engaging with religion around. And then the person prior to that had a lot of terrible arguments for why God exists. My
call is equal, because I came out of the closet. I jumped in the deep end of the pool and did a cannonball, and my wife has left. Everyone thinks I'm of the devil.
Sure.
And I've lost all my friends and whatever. And so in that very same vein, what I heard in the call before, even though the context of my particular situation it's much more in depth, it's the fact that, hey, I'm sitting here in a house in Georgia with my 2 wiener dogs, and my life is falling apart all around me, and I'm trying to put all this back together, trying to figure out how to go beyond this when, this was my orchestration. I knew it would happen, but so to me, it's very similar to a previous caller that, I don't have all the answers, even though I've gone through all this. Is that, I have similar situations where, I don't know where to go from here.
Sure. So what I would, and so generally those are the types of calls, that we're taking, is usually somebody who wants to share a little bit and then sort of ask where to go, because presumably, I mean, I'm a recovered from religion, recovered past tense person. We try to make sure that we've got people on there. What I would say here is, first of all, obviously the advice from the last call is going to be the same. It's going to be, that'll be the beginning here. The thing that we didn't talk about with the last caller, because the last caller wasn't currently dealing with the struggles of deconversion. I don't know what you've just whispered. It's very, very distracting though, Jess.
Therapy.
Yeah. That's where I was going to go with it, is the thing on top of the getting community. I assume, since you're already familiar with the that evangelical movement. Sorry, I can't. You already said the name of it, and it slipped from my mind. But are you aware of seculartherapy.org already?
Well, yeah, of course. I was the Secular Therapist Project, and I'm under a therapist care from that, and
sure.
I got 12 free lessons from this particular person through the Clergy Project, and then
excellent.
And I paid him through the years, and now it's free. But here's the bottom line: I've received 5 death threats from the faithful.
Sure.
And
I've been there.
Your average person won't do that, but
right.
There are people who are unhinged in every single form of life or whatever. And so, I'm not a big gun guy. I've never even fired a gun, but I have a shotgun that I sleep with right near my bed every night because,
Yeah, I have a rifle. Same deal. Same deal. I live in rural Texas, so if somebody figures out where I am, I'm from
Texas originally, and so I pretty much know where you're from. But here's what I'm saying is I believe that my call, even not in the grander scheme, but in the reality of previous calls, actually had some relevance.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to argue about whether you had the relevance or not. I was simply saying, as far as shows that I do, others do, as far as just a sort of thing of sharing your story, we have other shows that are ideal for that. And that's why I was suggesting contact me, because we could potentially talk. As you said, you're going to be doing other podcasts and stuff. We could potentially talk on that format. As far as, again, as far as the story sharing goes, the background, the what's happening and everything. But otherwise, if you have other questions or other topics that you're wanting Jess and I to speak to, I guess in a way I'm trying to non-arrogantly say the way this show is people call, especially atheist callers, are going to call with a question or a topic for the hosts to discuss with them. It's not so much for a person to come on and talk about their experience and what message they're wanting to get out, unless it's done extremely briefly, in which case I guess I don't mind, except for that it clogs up the call lines. But with your story, it could be the case that there's an appropriate venue that we want to put that on.
I would like to say that if you want to reach out to me separately,
Go ahead,
I'd love to have you on. No problem. I would love to have you on my channel to talk with you. And I know there's several other people, and it sounds like you found many of them. And I'm sure Jimmy would also be happy to either talk with you himself or connect you with the sort of appropriate show. But I'm sure that your story is incredibly important and people need to hear it. So feel free to reach out.
Yep.
So how do I contact you personally and give you my phone number so we can talk privately off of this particular genre or particular broadcast?
I would say email Jimmy.
Yeah, or her. Yeah, in the description, my email's in there, but the email that I mentioned earlier, dearmratheist@gmail.com, is my personal email. It gets you right to me. And then if you want Jess's channel's information, the link to Jess's channel is there as well, and you can go from there. But we do want to move on to the final topics and the final calls.
Thank you so much, and sorry if I misunderstood the purpose of the show.
No,
but at the same time, thank you for reaching out and at least hearing my story in some capacity, and I do appreciate
I imagine
that.
we'll hear more of it soon. Yeah. Thank you, Donald.
You have a great night. Bye.
You too.
There's an individual, and they hid the mods hid the message, which is fine. I trust the mods thing, but who said Jimmy is bluffing when I was talking about having a gun. If you want, but I'll tell you, it's an AK-74, and it's literally within reach of me as I sleep. So, but whatever.
I thought you were gonna say the comment that said HQ is hot.
No. I wasn't gonna go. I saw chick. No? Chick is hot.
No, whatever.
That's what I saw.
I mean, they're not referring to you. So.
Yeah. Well, it could be. I'm quite the chick. I'm sure I would make a hot chick. I don't know. Is chick a specifically gendered term? I suppose it is. I think I was conflating it with like babe, because guys can be babes now, right? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they could always be babes, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. The individual may have just been being silly, but I grew up as a Republican, you all understand, right? Same. I grew up as a Republican, and while I am a socialist now, you should know socialists aren't largely anti-gun either.
No.
We sort of think that we're going to... Now, that said, I wish we lived in a gun-controlled world and country. I don't advocate for guns. I quite the opposite. But in as much as I'm going to be surrounded by good old boys in the area that ain't... I don't like your God shitting upon persona that I found on the internet last night. As long as I'm surrounded by that, I'm gonna fucking sleep next to an assault rifle, unless I had a partner which felt uncomfortable about that, in which case I would probably build a secret compartment into my bed or something to contain it more better.
I mean, one of my earliest memories is my dad putting a gun in my hand when I was like 4 or 5 and being like, shoot at that target, and I was like, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, I'm an excellent shot. That's the other part of it. I'm ready for another Theist call, and I'll just let the screener know that Nika, you are free to drop as well. We've got Isaiah.
Better than the other one.
I don't know if it's Isaiah or Isaiah, but maybe that's what I need to know. Wait, what had just happened? Right as I answered it, the call seems to have terminated. So we'll see. We'll see if we get Isaiah back on the line, because it might be because.
Ready for takeoff?
Zach. Whoa. Working hard on my stump, what's the problem? I ain't had shit to show, being modest. Now it's grams of the wax for my conscience. Brown James in LA, you're on college. I've been jumping on them planes like a hobby. Still moving with the pack like my partners. Put the John on them jets, cause we wildin'. But the bowl is a party on the island, moment of silence.
So good, get back to the topic. Grew up, it was me and Flocka. Grandma's and Big T, this my mama. I ain't even for the pain when my pops flipped. Knew his name, that's it, never bothered. Mom said, you the man, son, you got this. Ever since I found a way to go and pop shit. Hold up, blaze through a whole zip. Took a seat at the table of my first flip. Days in red roof with my first whip. Spent the money with the gang, never post pics. Seen the change in the game, had to coach it. Never let them take my wangs in the mold, bitch. Ever made in a month, nigga. Used to serve him at the minute just to front, nigga. Goddamn. Had to grow up quick.
Live from Sacred Death Studios in Los Santos, San Andreas. Welcome everyone to Late Night Counter-Apologetics. And now, please welcome your host. He is the wise man of the Sacred Death Motorcycle Club. He is the sexiest man in all of word wrestling entertainment. He is the most entertaining man in the history of evolutionary biology. He is the virtual visionary, Mr. Dual PhD himself. Please give it up for the architect of the atheist apocalypse, the only man to have his vestments blessed by Pine Creek, the most high apostle of the cult of the Flying Man. He is none other than the Outlaw Prince, the one and only Jesus who can save us, Dr. Heartbreak J, Pocket Locker, BUNDY! I know I'm sexy, I've got the look that drives the girls while I got the moves that really move them. I said chills up and down their spines, I'm just a sexy boy. Are y'all ready to go? Are y'all ready to start the Atheist Crew Book Club? I'm just a sexy book boy. Number 2. Let's get it. I make them hot, I make them shiver. They used to get weak whenever I'm around. They see me walk, they hear me talk. I make them feel like their God ain't real. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a US champ. I'm not a fucking toy. That mic flipped on. Eat your heart out, girls. Hands off the merchandise. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. Oh man, what is this? Show number 3, show number 4. Does anybody even keep track of how many shows I do anymore? Is this thing on? What the hell is up with you? The hell happened to you? You looking like a newbie. You looking like you don't even know where to fucking be. Nigga, the star of the show is not up there in the sky. You looking like a theist or something. You all looking to the sky. If I look to the sky, from which comes my help. What the fuck is it? Motherfucking camera acting like his help comes from the Lord and shit. As always, y'all, I don't even, it's like 25 shows exactly. Like 20, pretty much like this is show number 25. Y'all already know what time it is, y'all. It's your boy Pocket Locker in the building. Welcome to the motherfucking Atheist Crew Book Club. My man Sam is in the building. Motherfucking Jewish Space Lasers in the building. The motherfucking Refiners Fires in the building. Liberty Bell, the motherfucking sexiest United States championship in the history of word wrestling entertainment, is in the house. The one-hit wonder is in the house. The Book of Myron is in the house. The vestments are on. The bongs are ready. And folks, as always, I am in airplane mode. Y'all already know. Look. Let's get right into it. Y'all should be at the church, okay? Who is in attendance at the church right now? Cameron is here. AR is here. Lena is here. Let me turn on my microphone. Cameron is here. AR is here. Lena is here. The rest of you fuck faces are delinquent, late, tardy, as they would say. All right? Y'all should be in the goddamn church, and you're not. And you're not. Now, let's catch a fucking vibe over here. Hang on, I gotta change screens over here. Fuck this screen. Nobody wants to see that shit anymore. We do this shit in real time. One take only, niggers. All right, that's how we do it. That's how we do it around here. All right, let's go. Boom, boom, boom. Something about that. Something about that. Something about that. Something about that. Yeah, let's catch a vibe real quick. What's this one called? This one's called Shot of Jers Pull Up. Just this. That's what it's called.
Yeah. She be getting her hair done Tuesday. Where you going? Feet up, relaxing, sipping that Douce. If this was 2K shit, I could hit you on my two-way, or I could try to make you my new babe. I laid the dick down proper, it's a new day. Who order expensive lobster and souffle? Now that'll be me. Had to pull up in that CP3. Now do you love me, look key? Shot-town to New Jersey, we gon' pull up. Hell yeah, I got the hook up. Anytime that you need me, we gon' pull up. Damn right, I got the hook up. And saying you gotta act brand new. Nah, I can't stand you. Had to bring you round just to show what the fam do. No text, no calls, no reasons to be involved. Young John Wall taking what's give it and get it off. Come on. What you doing, girl? Pull up on me. I ain't got a lot of time living in the moment.
I'm over here in the worship, man. Rocking the worship music.
No disrespect about me. City, so you know I'm about it. So you know I'm about it. I can tell you about it. Now let me tell you about it. Playing, no, I had to shout it.
Days I'm in the hood like what it is. I might slide up on you like what up is. You know I like to play with you. I spend the day with you, can kick it, seeing what it do. You feeling comfortable, I make the move. But now it's different though, I guess it's cool. You wasn't shy about my love, remember after school days when I picked
y'all lucky this ain't like Sacred Death. Sacred Death take a church attendance every week. Put your ass in the Discord for not being at church.
And here you go with the same old song on your weekend shit. I just wish I never met her like Call Tom Miz, but I ain't tripping no. Stay up on the grind, we gon' get some dough. And you got that good ass brain, I had to let you know. Really wanna let you know. Tell me where you wanna go and what you wanna know.
Whoa.
What you doing, girl? Pull up on me. I got a lot of time living in the moment. In the city with the gas roll for
Hey, get down.
Come get you and we bend them corners. Disrespect you about me. No disrespect.
That's what I'm talking about, AR.
So you know I'm about it. I can tell you about it. Now let me tell you about it. Playing, no, I had to shout it. I had to doubt it. I wanna love you. I wanna love you. I wanna love you.
This that new gospel. That real nigga church music. Let's go.
What you doing, girl? Pull up on me. I got a lot of time living in the moment. In the city with the gas roll for you. Can I come get you and we bend them corners?
Press me to dance.
No disrespect about city, so you know I'm about it. So you know I'm about it. I can tell you about it. Now let me tell you about it. Playing, no, I had to shout it. I had to doubt it. I wanna love you. I wanna love you.
All right. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Son, where'd you find this?
All right, y'all. Let's do communion. Y'all already know the goddamn drill. What is going on today? Oh, I boosted my signal. I know what happened. And my motherfucking gate is up. Okay, boop, gate, threshold. All right, that should have, yep, there it goes. That was it. All right, so, cool, let's, what are we doing right now? Communion, boom, that's it. That's the thing. That's the one. That's the one. All right, here we go, everybody. Y'all already know the drill. Please don't do anything. Please sit tight, grab your motherfucking alcohol, get ready for communion. All right, cool. You ready? All right, you ready? Too late. Please raise your glasses. Matter of fact, let me drop it in the motherfucking command so y'all fucking start knowing what time it is so y'all can fucking say the fucking shit with me. Communion. Look, it's all you got to do is drop communion in the chat. Boom. There it is. It's right there for you. In the water. Okay, drop water. Yes. Through him, with him, in the unity of the flying man. All glory and honor is yours who flied for our sins forever and ever. You may drink. Choir sounds so good. Oh, that whiskey's for real one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, enjoy the communion song, folks.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All those nights when you've got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiancé didn't show. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. Roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee's dead. The morning's looking bright. And your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. your husband wants to be a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name.
Cameron, Carrie Ann,
And they're always glad you came.
I see you.
You wanna go
Hey,
where people
Lena,
know.
YouTube
People are
pump.
all
There's
the
a wild
same.
YouTube pump.
You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
You gotta go where everybody knows your name. What's up, Richard Madsen?
Where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. Where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. Where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if y'all noticed earlier, but how do I put this? Let me just show you guys. Let me just show you guys over here. Let me just show you guys. Because, you know, some people, they say pictures or it didn't happen. If we don't see the proof, then how can we believe the things that you say, mister? You could just be making up falsifications. Making up stories, myths, as they say. We do not believe in these myths of men. Let's see if that's a myth. Let me see. Did you guys see the latest Gin and Truth today? Did you guys see Gin and Truth on YouTube, the best YouTuber? You go to the best YouTube channel. Pretty much the best YouTube channel that's not Pocket Locker 86 is Gin and Truth on YouTube. So you go there, you look at the videos. Wait, what? Wait, what? Is this Gin and Truth on YouTube? 94 views. What? On Gin and Truth on YouTube? Wait, what? Whoa. What? Is this OG Roddy? Why is OG Roddy on Gin and Truth on YouTube? Why is OG Roddy on Gin and Truth on YouTube?
The minute just the front,
Is this the
nigga.
wrong channel? What? The flying man, he flied for your sins. Visit the first church of the flying man. JBundy.com.
Wise man impending doom
of the Sacred Death Motorcycle An overwhelming sense of impending doom. He is the sexiest
Is this
man
Gin and Truth
in
on
all
YouTube?
of
No.
Why is
Wrestling
Pocket Locker on Gin and Truth on YouTube? No. What is this? This can't be Pocket Locker. Wait. Let me see this.
I know I'm sexy. I've got the look that drives the girls.
Give it to me.
I got the moves.
Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Really?
I sent chills
Really?
up and down.
Oh, really? With the phone from Gorilla
I'm just a
Position?
sexy boy.
Oh, really? Came through the curtain on him.
I'm not your boy.
Oh, he came through the curtain on him.
I'm just the U.S. champ.
Oh, the U.S. champ came through the...
I'm not a fucking chump.
Oh, he came through the curtain.
I am debuting a new show right now, and you can't miss it. Their knees get weak whenever I'm
Is this on Gin and Truth?
They hear me talk.
Is this on Gin and Truth?
Feel like their God ain't real. I'm just a sexy boy.
Oh, really? Make me believe it, though.
I'm not your boy toy.
Make me believe it, though.
I'm just a sexy boy.
Sexy boy.
I'm not your boy toy.
Really, though? On Gin and Truth, though?
That mic flipped on. Eat your heart out, girls. Hands off the merchandise.
Are we in church, though? Oh, wait, we on Gin and Truth? Oh, the champ, he bought the belt. He bought the belt to Gin and Truth, though. Oh, no.
Not your boy toy.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
I'm just a sexy boy.
Oh, really?
I'm not your boy toy.
Oh, no.
I'm just a sexy boy.
Oh, no, you can't just take over Gin and Truth like, what is this guy
I'm just a sexy boy.
Are you just gonna take over Gin and Truth like that?
Boy toy. welcome of from the East Coast. Really? Are you just smoking weed on the man's channel, though? Are you smoking weed on the man's channel? Oh, no. Oh, Jay, that's so disrespectful. Yes, the motherfucking blackout. And I could not do this shit by myself. Holy shit. Take fucking legend. Get the fuck the ghetto shit. Stand the fuck up. Shit. Lose your mind. Take your fucking shirt off. Spin it around your head. Buy some fucking Tim's. Roll a fat blunt. That's ignorant. 40. Do some shit because you are not black enough for what the fuck is going down all over the place. Do not adjust your text, folks. You're right. I'm not fucking Robert Reed. And I didn't just take over the man's channel. We are doing this shit together. We are here to fuck up. Oh my goodness. The creotards, the Trumpletons, the motherfucking Republican Party, the motherfucking anti-freedom, anti-LGBT, anti-black people, anti-poor people, anti-everybody else. Oh, did they really do that? What? Did they really do that? Did they?
Me calling God a fuckface.
Is that James Apperson?
Wait, hold on.
And my one black friend?
You mean this fucker created a universe?
Why is James that? Why is the cult to the flying man?
Like mountains.
Why are the pastors of the cult to the flying man on Gin and Truth? What?
In Ezekiel. Yeah, it gets pretty.
Is this hot program on Gin and Truth, y'all? Yeah, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're taking over the internet. Yeah, you wouldn't have believed me if I didn't show it to you. You wouldn't believe me if I didn't show it to you. I had to show it to you. That's Gin and Truth, y'all. That's on the Gin and Truth channel. So I don't know what to tell you. If you didn't believe that we were taking over the internet, you should believe me now. Clearly too late. It's clearly way too late, but you should believe me now. Way too late to do anything about it. Oh man. What else we got for him? Oh no. Really though? Oh.
This is Audible.
The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Read by Richard Dawkins and Lala Ward. In Memoriam, Douglas Adams.
All right, hang on. I gotta stop dancing around here. Gotta stop messing around over here. Also, I want to make sure this thing doesn't do that stupid setting thing. Here. Auto idle muting. Nope, turn that shit off. It's terrible. All right.
Of the closing lines of The Origin of Species, the famous entangled bank passage.
With birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, and with worms crawling through the damp earth.
Had he been, he would certainly have identified with it and, instead of the priesthood, might have been led to Darwin's view that all was
produced by laws acting around us. Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death.
This is Audible.
Sorry, we're starting with the preface, y'all. I was like, what the hell is going on? All right, we're going to start with the preface. This is The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Fucking preamble. Preamble is this. This book was transformative for me. I know a lot of y'all think whatever is. We're not here to talk about people's social media activities. Everybody has problematic shit that they said. I don't really care. But the truth is, when we think about the community we have and what we stand for, what we're about, I think a lot of it obviously, stems from sort of the audacity to, identify as somebody who doesn't believe. And, there's just certain things that I think are pivotal for me in terms of sort of the intellectual heroes that piece that together. And, we started with Christopher Hitchens. I know how I feel about Christopher Hitchens. God is Not Great. That was sort of just a really great take on the whole thing. We'll move into Richard Dawkins today. And then, after that, we'll do The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, and we'll move on from there to other books. But, I'm really excited about this book. This is a book that I read, like, when COVID first happened. So it was such a pivotal time in my, like, personal life as it was for everybody. But I was sort of locked down I was visiting my mother in this very religious house, but I was kind of like stuffy, had like a little nasal thing going on, sinus infection, that's what it was. And I was reading the PDF, the ebook, like the Kindle book of the God Delusion, and I was just hooked. Tried to get through at least like a chapter every day. It blew my mind. So I'm really excited about sharing it with you guys, and just also very excited because it means we finished God is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens. And so, we're out here, y'all. All right, so I'm going to get started. This is the preface.
The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Read by Richard Dawkins and Lala Ward. In Memoriam, Douglas Adams, 1952 to 2001. Isn't it enough to see that a garden is beautiful without having to believe that there are fairies at the bottom of it too? Preface. As a child, my wife hated her school and wished she could leave. Years later, when she was in her 20s, she disclosed this unhappy fact to her parents, and her mother was aghast. "But darling, why didn't you come to us and tell us?" Lala's reply is my text for today.
But I didn't know I could.
I didn't know I could. I suspect, well, I'm sure, that there are lots of people out there who have been brought up in some religion or other, are unhappy in it, don't believe it, or are worried about the evils that are done in its name. People who feel vague yearnings to leave their parents' religion and wish they could, but just don't realize that leaving is an option. If you are one of them, this book is for you. It is intended to raise consciousness to the fact that to be an atheist is a realistic aspiration, and a brave and splendid one. You can be an atheist who is happy, balanced, moral, and intellectually fulfilled. That is the first of my consciousness-raising messages. I also want to raise consciousness in 3 other ways, which I'll come on to. In January 2006, I presented a 2-part television documentary on British television, Channel 4, called Root of All Evil. From the start, I didn't like the title. Religion is not the root of all evil, for no one thing is the root of all anything. But I was delighted with the advertisement that Channel 4 put in the national newspapers. It was a picture of the Manhattan skyline with the caption, "Imagine a world without religion." What was the connection? The twin towers of the World Trade Center were conspicuously present. Imagine, with John Lennon, a world with no religion. Imagine no suicide bombers, no 9/11, no 7/7, no crusades, no witch hunts, no gunpowder plot, no Indian partition, no Israeli-Palestinian wars, no Serb-Croat massacres, no persecution of Jews as Christ killers, no Northern Ireland troubles, no honor killings, no shiny-suited, bouffon-haired televangelists fleecing gullible people of their money. God wants you to give till it hurts. Imagine no Taliban to blow up ancient statues, no public beheadings of blasphemers, no flogging of female skin for the crime of showing an inch of it. Incidentally, my colleague Desmond Morris informs me that John Lennon's magnificent song is sometimes performed in America with the phrase, "and no religion too," expurgated. One version even has the effrontery to change it to, "and one religion too." Perhaps you feel that agnosticism is a reasonable position, but that atheism is just as dogmatic as religious belief. If so, I hope Chapter 2 will change your mind by persuading you that the God hypothesis is a scientific hypothesis about the universe, which should be analyzed as skeptically as any other. Perhaps you have been taught that philosophers and theologians have good reasons to believe in God. If you think that, you might enjoy Chapter 3 on arguments for God's existence. The arguments turn out to be spectacularly weak. Maybe you think it is obvious that God must exist, for how else could the world have come into being? How else could there be life in all its rich diversity, with every species looking uncannily as though it had been designed? If your thoughts run along those lines, I hope you will gain enlightenment from Chapter 4 on why there almost certainly is no God. Far from pointing to a designer, the illusion of design in the living world is explained with far greater economy and with devastating elegance by Darwinian natural selection. And while natural selection itself is limited to explaining the living world, it raises our consciousness to the likelihood of comparable explanatory cranes that may aid our understanding of the cosmos itself. The power of cranes such as natural selection is the second of my 4 consciousness raisers.
Perhaps you think there must be a god or gods because anthropologists and historians report that believers dominate every human culture. If you find that convincing, please refer to Chapter 5 on the roots of religion, which explains why belief is so ubiquitous. Or do you think that religious belief is necessary in order for us to have justifiable morals? Don't we need God in order to be good? Please read Chapters 6 and 7 to see why this is not so. Do you still have a soft spot for religion as a good thing for the world, even if you yourself have lost your faith? Chapter 8 will invite you to think about ways in which religion is not such a good thing for the world. If you feel trapped in the religion of your upbringing, it would be worth asking yourself how this came about. The answer is usually some form of childhood indoctrination. If you are religious at all, it is overwhelmingly probable that your religion is that of your parents. If you were born in Arkansas and you think Christianity is true and Islam false, knowing full well that you would think the opposite if you had been born in Afghanistan, you are the victim of childhood indoctrination. Mutatis mutandis if you were born in Afghanistan.
The whole matter of religion and childhood is the subject of Chapter 9, which also includes my 3rd consciousness raiser. Just as feminists wince when they hear he rather than he or she, or man rather than human, I want everybody to flinch whenever they hear a phrase such as Catholic child or Muslim child. Speak of a child of Catholic parents if you like, but if you hear anybody speak of a Catholic child, stop them and politely point out that children are too young to know where they stand on something.
This was one of the most important points he made in this book. It stuck with me. I hope it sticks with you. And I literally try to I've never thought about it the same way. I've never forgot it the same way. I would never try to if a child walks up to me and tells me they're Catholic, I'm not going to tell them they're not. But this idea of really understanding that we should really call it what it is, right? That you're the child of Catholic parents, you're the child of Muslim parents. And everybody has their own way of talking about it. Uncle Bobby likes to say, they put it into you while you're still soft in the head. But that's really what we're dealing with, this worldview. And it's hard for me, right? Because y'all know there's a lot of vitriol towards the religious, especially the people who, there's no other way to slice it. They're on some bullshit and they're grown. And so nobody else can really, nobody else has responsibility or the power to get them to change their minds. They just got to own up to it and do what they got to do. But at the same time, they're victims, and that's the key to it. The key to it is it was put into them, literally before they were formed. I think of it now as small-brained. You know what I'm saying? Lena, you were small in the brain, small. You had a small little peanut head, a little tiny little brain, and they started telling you literally that because you fucked around and existed, You done fucked around and been born with that sinful nature of yours. You know, you're going to the hell place and you need Jesus. And I want to be so mad at the people that did that to me. But then I got to remember who did it to them and who did it to them and so on. And you know, it's like we talk about when you're caught up in the system, like when you're mad at the corporation and then you take it out on the worker and that working class person that's just trying to make a paycheck, then had nothing to do with your awful experience. Yeah, it just sucks. And it's the same other type of thing, you know. It's just this perpetual chain. I try to just break it. I think a lot of us are just breaking it, and I think that that's something to celebrate. It definitely might not be, you know, as fast as we want it to be, but a lot of us are just, you know, we're not gonna encourage people that way, or we're not gonna raise people that way, and that there's something to be said for that. And I think we'll go back and influence some people. I have hope for some people that are, I don't know, even older people. I know there's a lot of like, you know, your grandma's 70, but grandmas are different. You know, people that are 70 don't give a fuck about much anymore. You know, a lot of them might be willing to come around. Hey, look, man, I'm chilling around the old folks' home. I eat Jell-O, play a little chess. Yeah, that guy should never really made much sense to me, to keep it honest with you. But, you know, yeah, I just try to be a good person these days. You know, try to keep the peace. All right, cool, Grandpa. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you never know. You never know.
Such issues, just as they're too young to know where they stand on economics or politics. Precisely because my purpose is consciousness raising, I shall not apologize for mentioning it here in the preface as well as in Chapter 9. You can't say it too often. I'll say it again. That is not a Muslim child, but a child of Muslim parents. That child is too young to know whether it is a Muslim or not. There is no such thing as a Muslim child. There is no such thing as a Christian child.
Chapters 1 and 10 top and tail the book by explaining, in their different ways, how a proper understanding of the magnificence of the real world, while never becoming a religion, can fill the inspirational role that religion has historically and inadequately usurped. The fourth consciousness raiser is atheist pride. Being an atheist is nothing to be apologetic about. On the contrary, it is something to be proud of, standing tall, to face the far horizon, for atheism nearly always indicates a healthy independence of mind, and indeed a healthy mind. There are many people who know in their heart of hearts that they are atheists, but dare not admit it to their families or even in some cases to themselves. Partly this is because the very word atheist has been assiduously built up as a terrible and frightening label. Chapter 9 quotes the comedian Julia Sweeney's tragicomic story of her parents' discovery, through reading a newspaper, that she had become an atheist.
All this very interesting. I wanted to touch on a couple things. I feel this way too. I think people are so brave to be atheists. You know, I hear people talk about this, ageism, you know, old people are the last group it's okay to discriminate against, facts. There is a lot of groups that you can openly discriminate against, but man, can you talk shit about some heathens and nobody say anything to you about it, right? And then all of just the religious grandstanding that just doesn't even acknowledge it, right? Like we talk about, everybody that wins an award, or, you know, like, it's funny, two fighters go into the ring, they both praying to Jesus. One knocks the other one out of his shoes. He goes, I want to thank Jesus for, you know, giving me the victory tonight. I'd be like, bro, what are y'all talking about, man? Like, that other guy didn't sit over there praying to the same God before you punched him in his temple. But you know, it is brave of y'all to be an atheist, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool thing to celebrate.
Not believing in God, they could just about take. But an atheist? An atheist? The mother's voice rose to a scream.
I need to say something to American readers in particular at this point.
Yeah, I feel
for the
you on that, Carrie Ann.
religiosity of
Something wrong
today's
with you.
America is something truly remarkable. The lawyer Wendy Kaminer was exaggerating only slightly when she remarked that making fun of religion is as risky as burning a flag in an American Legion hall. The status of atheists in America today is on a par with that of homosexuals 50 years ago. Now, after the gay pride movement, it is possible, though still not very easy, for a homosexual to be elected to public office. A Gallup poll taken in 1999 asked Americans whether they would vote for an otherwise well-qualified person who was a woman, 95% would, Roman Catholic, 94% would, Jew, 92%, Black, 92%, Mormon, 79%, homosexual, 79%, or atheist, 49%. Clearly, we have a long way to go. But atheists are a lot more numerous, especially among the educated elite, than many realize. This was so even in the 19th century, when John Stuart Mill was already able to say,
"The world would be astonished if it knew how great a proportion of its brightest ornaments of the..."
Yeah, I feel you on that, Rich, but I don't think it does. I think it's real credence. I mean, I think a lot of us lived religiously dominated lives. I mean, it may not be fun to acknowledge the power that it had over us, but it does. I think about this sometimes when I see people who have a radical response to trauma, like they go through something traumatic in their response to it. I'm kind of this way in some senses. Like you kind of wear it on your sleeve a lot, and always like it's always you feel like, man, you don't have to, right? Because part of healing for a lot of people is letting go of something so it doesn't define you, so it just you don't have to doesn't have to be a thing anymore. But that's not the case for everybody. Like some people are just like, oh, that's a big part of me. I remember I felt that way about bipolar. Like I went through so many phases with it. And I remember even like people in my family like always telling me like that I didn't have to talk about it. Like, hey, you could just be cool, you don't have to talk about it and like nobody will know. And then I just got to a point where I was like, that's fucking weird. It'd be like not telling people I'm left-handed. Like, why would I not tell people I'm left-handed? You know what I mean? So it just became like a thing about me, and it just, for me, it just became easier to be like cool talking about it. But for other people, they don't want to talk about it. So yeah, I don't really know about all of that. But yeah, I think for me, like the way I look at it is being religious was such a huge part of my upbringing, like dragged out of bed on Sunday morning, not a choice. And looking back at it, the way I took it on and worked at churches and had serious religious experiences and devotion and stuff like that, I'm really lucky. So I don't know, for me, for celebrating something like that, for me, feels like, celebrating escaping something very harmful to me.
Those most distinguished even in popular estimation for wisdom and virtue are complete skeptics in religion.
This must be even truer today, and indeed I present evidence for it in Chapter 3. The reason so many people don't notice atheists is that many of us are reluctant to come out. My dream is that this book may help people to come out. Exactly as in the case of the gay movement, the more people come out, the easier it will be for others to join them. There may be a critical mass for the initiation of a chain reaction.
American polls suggest that atheists and agnostics far outnumber religious Jews, and even outnumber most other particular religious groups. Unlike Jews, however, who are notoriously one of the most effective political lobbies in the United States, and unlike evangelical Christians, who wield even greater political power, atheists and agnostics are not organized, and therefore exert almost zero influence. Indeed, organizing atheists has been compared to herding cats, because they tend to think independently and will not conform to authority. But a good first step would be to build up a critical mass of those willing to come out, thereby encouraging others to do so. Even if they can't be herded, cats in sufficient numbers can make a lot of noise, and they cannot be ignored.
The word delusion in my title has disquieted some psychiatrists who regard it as a technical term not to be bandied about. 3 of them wrote to me to propose a special technical term for religious delusion, relusion. Maybe it'll catch on, but for now I'm going to stick with delusion, and I need to justify my use of it. The Penguin English Dictionary defines a delusion as a false belief or impression. Surprisingly, the illustrative quotation the dictionary gives is from Philip E. Johnson. Darwinism is the story of humanity's liberation from the delusion that its destiny is controlled by a power higher than itself. Can that be the same Philip E. Johnson who leads the creationist charge against Darwinism in America today? Indeed it is, and the quotation is, as we might expect, taken out of context. I hope the fact that I have stated as much will be noted, since the same courtesy has not been extended to me in numerous creationist...
Now, if those of y'all didn't catch that Johnson he's talking about, Philip Johnson is the Philip Johnson who's the star of Tower of Babel by Robert Pennock, right? That's the Philip Johnson we've been talking about in that book.
Quotations of my works, deliberately and misleadingly taken out of context. Whatever Johnson's own meaning, his sentence as it stands is one that I would be happy to endorse. The dictionary supplied with Microsoft Word defines a delusion as a persistent false belief held in the face of strong contradictory evidence.
That's mine.
Especially as a symptom of psychiatric disorder.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. It's the exact definition.
The first part captures religious faith perfectly. As to whether it is a symptom of psychiatric disorder, I'm inclined to follow Robert M. Pirsig, author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. When one person suffers from a delusion, it is called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it is called religion. If this book works as I intend, religious readers who...
I think it's absolutely a sign of mental something going on, right? I mean, all we have, y'all, is behavior, right? And I think there's a difference between, there's nothing wrong and there's nothing wrong enough for us to intervene, right? Just because you're not institutionalized or treated medically, right, doesn't mean that because if you think about what this worldview entails, if anybody thought this way about anything else, you would just treat it very differently. And so in a sense, I feel like we're all doing a wink, wink, nudge, nudge when we all know this is a case of special pleading. We all know we're defining things to be what it is, and then we're going ... unless it's religion, just so that we have a built-in excuse not to treat most and everybody, right? And to avoid the unnecessary religious outrage, right? Because, what else is it? If someone tells you that they're a flat earther, you're thinking you're a troll or you're deluded. The earth isn't flat. So for you to just hold that opinion in face of evidence to the contrary, and I'm sorry, evidence to the contrary for most people is like if I sat right here and I said, Lena, is the earth flat? And she said, no. And I was like, Lena, what are you talking about? And she was like, Jay, seriously, you're wrong about this. The earth isn't flat. And I was like, yo, Cameron Bennett, tell this hoe she turned hazy, because I don't know if she talking to me. Yo, Cameron, she over here trying to tell me the earth ain't flat. Now, don't come up in my face on my channel telling me the earth ain't flat. Cameron, tell her she wrong. Cameron like, yo, Jay, earth round like a motherfucker. It ain't quite like a basketball, but it definitely ain't flat, bro. You need to really... And I was like, YouTube Punk. YouTube Punk, where you at on this? All right, so if YouTube Punk literally spoke up and was like, Jay, the earth is really round, like you're wrong about this, that's it, y'all. Most people, 2 or 3 people tell them they wrong about something, they gonna go look it up, they gonna figure it out, they gonna look at some pictures, they gonna ask some experts, watch a couple of respective videos, And they're either going to tell you, like, real quickly, like, they don't know what's up, or flat out think, like, yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong about that. Now, if they don't, y'all, something is wrong with them. And let me put it to you a different way. We live in a society where we call it like relaxed selection pressure, but basically just think of it as the environment ain't as harsh as it used to be. So, for instance, somebody like me really wouldn't be like very capable in, you know, ancient times or whatever. Why? Because I can't see. Right? So before they came up with glasses and all that, if you really couldn't see, I don't even know how so many of us made it this far. Right? Well, I know what it was. Once we could correct vision, it just mattered less and less and less. So as long as if somebody was cute and they couldn't really see that well, hey, look, put them glasses on. You look kind of cute with them glasses on. You was cool. But really, like, that was a big deal. You couldn't see, right? Now, there was a time when, like, I don't know, people really did think, you know, when there was a volcano, God was angry. That was a reasonable way to be about the world. But my point is, like, in the modern world, like, think about what we're dealing with the world. There's a certain amount of information literacy you got to be able to have. You got to, in 2022, be able to jump on the internet and make heads or tails of whether the earth is flat or not. You got to be able to make heads or tails of, did Trump win the election or did Joe Biden win the election? You got to be able to make heads or tails of, were we created or did we evolve? Right? Should you be afraid of missing 1 or 2 days of work because you got the vaccine, or 1 or 2 days of work because you got sick from COVID? I mean, let's just say both are possible. Let's say both are very possible. Which one should you be more concerned about? See, this is essential shit. Y'all see what I'm saying? This is your ability to swing from tree to tree if you're a chimp or whatever, right? Like, we live in an environment where these people can, yes, they can still go to work, they can vote, they can reproduce, right? They're okay. Like, they're not gonna fail immediately to function, right? But let's be clear, they're lacking major shit. There's just some basic tools and skills that you need to be a human being in 2022, and they're missing those tools, just flat out. And even the comfort thing, like, some of it for me was, I realized that religion made me weak. Even these people who talk about the morality, I'm thinking, I don't know, they've never thought about it. Because even when I was a Christian, I'm going to tell you what happened. I met my best friend in college, like the first day, and he was so nice. And I remember when I found out he was an atheist, I literally was, I don't want to say I was mad about it, but I was like, bro, like, what is wrong with you? And I remember asking him, like, why are you so nice to people? And I remember feeling like I was known for kind of going out of my way to be good to people, right? But I felt like I had to. Right? Like, I remember feeling like it's just, you know, I'm out here trying to be a good Christian and shit. Like, you know, I really, you know, hey, maybe I would like to slide up in more females than I do. But at the end of the day, not taking advantage of people is kind of something I'm kind of committed to. You know, Jesus don't really think too kindly of people, you know? And when this motherfucker was just straight up nicer than me, and I was like, why? And he was basically just like, because I'm trying to be a good person. Like, I don't know, right? You know, I was out here studying, like, social dynamics from like, how to, like, pick up people and all, like, manipulation and all of this bullshit I was into when I was, you know, a freshman and shit. And he was reading, like, how to win friends and influence people. Like, he was all, like, on some pro-social shit. His name is Zach. He was, like, one of the best human beings I ever met. And I had the great fortune of being his best friend. I was with him every day. But it really struck me, and what what I learned as a result of that was, holy shit, there's something wrong with you if you're faithful to your wife because God commands you to, rather than because you promised that person monogamy. Right? If you don't steal because you're worried about what God will do to you, rather than that's not yours. You know, like even when the dude tried to hit me with the why can't you have sex with the chicken, I was very serious with the answer. Like, this is a stupid question if you really want to answer, because you don't have the chicken's consent. And since I already know you can't get consent from a chicken, 100% done deal. 100% done deal right there. What are we talking about? So it really becomes shocking to me that grown people want to sit here and argue that they need this God to be a decent person, or to be good, or to do the right thing, or to know what's right from wrong, and then very clearly haven't read the book. So yeah, I'm with Dawkins. It's delusional. And it's basically a situation where it's like, we don't have the institutional capacity or willpower to deal with it as such. But I do think some of it starts with us. And I don't mean that in a very aggressive sense. I mean that in the sense that I think a lot of people are looking for a way out. And I do think that there's been a kind of mismessaging here. I think there's been this message of you shouldn't try to deconvert the people around you. And I guess I would probably agree with that for the most part. But I do think you being just your great self and being a non-believer does embolden people. So the thing I wanted to share is that for me, it's like about the community. Because I remember times where I felt like it was very hard to be an atheist because I was very alone, so I didn't want to talk about it. But I think the difference is the same way Christians are in like churches and these sort of communities where they talk about God every day, and then they could celebrate being in a community where they talk about God every day. I now talk about being an atheist every day. So it's much more natural for me to talk about it than it used to be. So I feel like that can be the difference for a lot of people, where it's like, you know, you might not be coming out with it, as we say, but you might find that over time, just by having more friends that think like you know, it's sort of like it's like I play GTA. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes my students laugh when I tell them I play GTA. I guess they're not expecting a biology professor to play GTA, but, you know, I just like, well, that's what all my friends do, so. You know, and, you know, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I was like, you know, it's like most of my friends are non-believers, and, you know, they're all dealing with fucking religious-ass families that don't get it, so, you know, it's just not that big of a deal to me anymore because I have so many people that I know that are the same way. We talk about it all the time. I honestly never hear anything from these guys that I'm not prepared to hear. It's sort of like, you guys hear the people that start making apologetics about the LNCA lines or Evita. It's stuff obviously we've heard all before because you just work with it every day. So you just hear it. You know the stuff even if you don't want to. You're just tired of hearing it. And it's kind of the same thing with religion. So I think there was a time, right, where if somebody came up to me and was like, well, Jay, what about the absolute basis for morality and human kindness? I might have just really thought that was a deep question. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, why do y'all keep asking stupid questions like that? Like, I just don't even, it's just so unimpressive. You know, it feels like when a kid walks up to you with one of those like drawings, and they think it's like a Picasso thing. It's like a kid just put like, they took some crayons and they built a little house and little stick figures. And you're like, oh, that's cute. Let me hang this up on the refrigerator and pretend you're all impressed. And that's what I feel like I'm doing with them. But they seem so impressed with this thing. And I'm like, bro, just read the book. I was gonna tell them that. Just read the book. It ain't really that impressive. It's interesting. I think there's more power to the community than we think. All right, this preface is almost over.
Open it. Will be atheists when they put it down. What presumptuous optimism. Of course, dyed-in-the-wool faith heads are immune to argument, their resistance built up over years of childhood indoctrination, using methods that took centuries to mature, whether by evolution or design. Among the more effective immunological devices is a dire warning to avoid even opening a book like this, which is surely a work of Satan. But I believe there are plenty of open-minded people out there, people whose childhood indoctrination was not too insidious, or for other reasons didn't take, or whose native intelligence is strong enough to overcome it. Such free spirits should need only a little encouragement to break free of the vice of religion altogether. At very least, I hope that nobody who reads this book will be able to say, I didn't know I could. Chapter 1. A Deeply Religious Non-Believer.
I don't try to imagine a personal God. It suffices to stand in awe at the structure of the world, insofar as it allows our inadequate senses to appreciate it. Albert Einstein.
Deserved respect. The boy lay prone in the grass, his chin resting on his hands. He suddenly found himself overwhelmed by a heightened awareness of the tangled stems and roots, a forest in microcosm, a transfigured world of ants and beetles, and even, though he wouldn't have known the details at the time, of
I just want to quickly say
soil
something.
Bacteria by the billion.
I just want to say something that's going to sound a little like look at the trees, y'all. And I hate look at the trees, I hate look at the genes, and I definitely hate read this biology paper because, oh my God, that doesn't inspire anybody to think about nature. But what I do think y'all should do, I'm kidding answers in atheism. Lena, I can't even tell my true opinion about science because these science nerds will freaking try to burn me at the stake. All right, next time you go outside and you catch a glimpse of like a star or like the moon, right? If you see the moon, I want you to think this the next time you see the moon. Look up at it. I do this sometimes. I'll go outside and I'll take a picture of it, but I'll just look up at the moon. I'll be like, dude, that's the fucking moon. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like, imagine how you would feel in the room right now if Cardi B just walked into the room. Okay, Cardi B is a dumbass entertainer who 10 years from now nobody will give a rat's ass about, promise you. Okay, no disrespect to the lady. She got some jams. I'm sure there'll still be some jams. All right, whatever. Anyway, 20, y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, nobody cares about these celebrities. Presidents, okay, most politicians are trash. We know this, right? So why would you care so much when, right, that you're in the presence of the, all right, cool. Look, I'm telling y'all, dog, it don't matter where you at on the globe. That's what I'm talking about, right? You think a celebrity's famous? Nah, dog, the moon. Celebrities are like, you could see me all over the internet. I'm all over the television. I'm like, bitch, the moon is so famous. The moon don't need to be broadcast nowhere. The moon can be seen all over the motherfucking solar system, y'all. Come on, you ain't fucking with the moon. So seriously, the next time you go outside, don't get all caught up in the mystery and the all. I be telling y'all, mystery. I don't like people who be worshiping mystery. That's weird to me. To me, think about it. Y'all know the God of the gaps fallacy, right? Worshiping mystery is worse than the God of the gaps fallacy. You're making the gaps God. Yeah, mystery is not something to be all emotional about and all inspired. Mystery is just stuff we don't know. So yeah, there's just stuff we don't know. But there is stuff we do know. So based on what we do know, you could literally go out and be in awe of the moon because you could be like, Yo, that's the moon. You know what I mean? Like lunar cycles, you know, the different shapes and all the different stuff it does with the seasons and the day-night cycles. I don't really care. I'm not really one of them astro nerds or whatever. I don't really care. But it is cool looking, right? And it is a pretty big deal. And so sometimes I literally sit out there and I'll be like, damn, like I don't really have to trip on anything religious. Like the moon is above me right now. And I could just look up and be like, holy shit, that's the fucking moon. You could do this with the sun. You could do this with a tree if you really want to. Sometimes do it with an all-black chipmunk. I'll be like, yo, them all-black chipmunks we got in Michigan, they kind of cool looking. It's kind of badass. All black, y'all. All black. Ain't nothing fucking, just fucking black. Sleek as shit, just fucking climbing all over the shit, looking at shit and just fucking darting around and shit. I'm like, that nigga cool. All right, so look, you don't got to get all mysterious and all fall in love with the mysteries and it's all inspiring and we'll never... Just go out there and stare at something that's mundane, but is seriously part of some universal crazy shit that's way bigger than you are and be like, God damn, that shit's right there. You will feel little as shit. Trust me, you'll feel humble and relaxed and insignificant and all of those things because you'll realize it's the moon.
Silently and invisibly shoring up the economy of the micro-world. Suddenly, the microforest of the turf seemed to swell and become one with the universe
and with
the rapt mind of the boy contemplating it. He interpreted the experience in religious terms, and it led him eventually to the priesthood. He was ordained an Anglican priest and became a chaplain at my school, a teacher of whom I was fond. It is thanks to decent liberal clergymen like him that nobody could ever claim that I had religion forced down my throat. Our sport during lessons was to sidetrack him away from Scripture and towards stirring tales of fighter command and the few. He had done war service in the RAF, and it was with familiarity and something of the affection that I still retain for the Church of England, at least by comparison with the competition, that I later read John Betjeman's poem.
Our padre is an old sky pilot. Severely now they've clipped his wings, but still the flagstaff in the rectory garden points to higher things.
In another time and place, that boy could have been me under the stars, dazzled by Orion, Cassiopeia and Ursa Major, tearful with the unheard music of the Milky Way, heady with the night scents of frangipani and trumpet flowers in an African garden. Why the same emotion should have led my chaplain in one direction and me in the other is not an easy question to answer. A quasi-mystical response to nature and the universe is common among scientists and rationalists. It has no connection with supernatural belief. In his boyhood, at least, my chaplain was presumably not aware, nor was I, of the closing lines of The Origin of Species, the famous entangled bank passage.
With birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, and with worms crawling through the damp earth.
Had he been, he would certainly have identified with it and, instead of the priesthood, might have been led to Darwin's view that all was
produced by laws acting around us. Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death, the most exalted object which we are capable of conceiving, namely the production of the higher animals, directly follows. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms, or into one, and that whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved.
Carl Sagan in Pale Blue Dot wrote,
How is it that hardly any major religion has looked at science and concluded, this is better than we thought, the universe is much bigger than our prophets said, grander, more subtle, more elegant. Instead they say, no, 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 my God is a little God, and I want him to stay that way. A religion, old or new, that stressed the magnificence of the universe as revealed by modern science, might be able to draw forth reserves of reverence and awe hardly tapped by the conventional faiths.
All Sagan's books touch the nerve endings of transcendent wonder that religion monopolized in past centuries. My own books have the same aspiration. Consequently, I hear myself often described as a deeply religious man. An American student wrote to me that she had asked her professor whether he had a view about me.
Sure,
he replied.
He's positive science is incompatible with religion, but he waxes ecstatic about nature and the universe. To me, that is religion.
But is religion the right word? I don't think so. The Nobel Prize-winning physicist and atheist Steven Weinberg made the point as well as anybody in Dreams of a Final Theory.
Some people have views of God that are so broad and flexible that it is inevitable that they will find God wherever they look for him. One hears it said that God is the ultimate, or God is our better nature, or God is the universe. Of course, like any other word, the word God can be given any meaning we like. If you want to say that God is energy, then you can find God in a lump of coal.
Weinberg is surely right that if the word God is not to become completely useless, it should be used in the way people have generally understood it, to denote a supernatural creator that is appropriate for us to worship.
Much unfortunate confusion is caused by failure to distinguish what can be called Einsteinian religion from supernatural religion. Einstein sometimes invoked the name of God, and he's not the only atheistic scientist to do so, inviting misunderstanding by supernaturalists eager to misunderstand and claim so illustrious a thinker as their own. The dramatic, or was it mischievous, ending of Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time,
"For then we should know the mind of God,"
is notoriously misconstrued. It has led people to believe, mistakenly of course, that Hawking is a religious man. The cell biologist Ursula Goodenough in The Sacred Depths of Nature sounds more religious than Hawking or Einstein. She loves churches, mosques and temples, and numerous passages in her book fairly beg to be taken out of context and used as ammunition for supernatural religion. She goes so far as to call herself a religious naturalist.
Yet a careful reading of her book shows that she's really as staunch an atheist as I am. Naturalist is an ambiguous word. For me, it conjures my childhood hero, Hugh Lofting's Dr. Dolittle, who, by the way, had more than a touch of the philosopher-naturalist of HMS Beagle about him. In the 18th and 19th centuries, naturalist meant what it still means for most of us today, a student of the natural world. Naturalists in this sense, from Gilbert White on, have often been clergymen. Darwin himself was destined for the church as a young man, hoping that the leisurely life of a country parson would enable him to pursue his passion for beetles. But philosophers use naturalist in a very different sense, as the opposite of supernaturalist. Julian Baggini explains in Atheism, a very short introduction, the meaning of an atheist's commitment to naturalism.
What most atheists do believe is that although there is only one kind of stuff in the universe, and it is physical, out of this stuff come minds, beauty, emotions, moral values, in short, the full gamut of phenomena that gives richness to human life.
All right, so I'll give my little naturalist spiel here. One of the things y'all hear me talk about is, you know, I'm not the guy when people always go, "Hey, Jay, can you talk about how evolutionary biology has moved past Darwin and the 150 years since and all of this bullshit?" I'm like, I'm not the person because I'm kind of a Darwin guy. Darwin touched my heart. I was produced by English teachers, y'all. It's English teachers that trained me, so that's where I learned biology from. That's why I don't fuck with these biology nerds. And so I fuck with Darwin because I love the way he wrote, not because he was a great writer, but because he was a weirdo, and he wrote very weird. But he was brilliant because he was weird. So, anyway, Darwin was a naturalist, and that was just sort of the term for people, as you heard, who like did what we would call science, studied the natural world, if you will, before we had terms like biologist. And so when I do like some of my work, one of the societies that we work with in our field is called the American Society of Naturalists. And I'm always really, really happy that we work with them because it feels like we can call ourselves naturalists. And some of us really do consider ourselves naturalists, but that's mostly those of us like myself and Rich Lenski who are Darwin nerds. And, you know, that's part of our ambition to be like Darwin. But so, yeah, some of us consider ourselves naturalists, and hopefully I'll publish in that journal someday.
Human thoughts and emotions emerge from exceedingly complex interconnections of physical entities within the brain. An atheist, in this sense of philosophical naturalist, is somebody who believes that there is nothing beyond the natural physical world, no supernatural creative intelligence lurking behind the observable universe, no soul that outlasts the body, and no miracles, except in the sense of natural phenomena that we don't yet understand. If there is something that appears to lie beyond the natural world as it is now imperfectly understood, we hope eventually to understand it and embrace it within the natural. As ever, when we unweave a rainbow, it will not become less wonderful. Great scientists of our time who sound religious usually turn out not to be so when you examine their beliefs more deeply. This is certainly true of Einstein and Hawking. The present Astronomer Royal and President of the Royal Society, Martin Rees, told me that he goes to church as an unbelieving Anglican, out of loyalty to the tribe. He has no theistic beliefs, but shares the poetic naturalism that the cosmos provokes in the other scientists I've mentioned. In the course of a recently televised conversation, I challenged my friend, the obstetrician Robert Winston, a respected pillar of British Jewry, to admit that his Judaism was of exactly this character, and that he didn't really believe in anything supernatural. He came close to admitting it, but shied at the last fence. To be fair, he was supposed to be interviewing me, not the other way around. When I pressed him, he said he found that Judaism provided a good discipline to help him structure his life and lead a good one. Perhaps it does, but that, of course, has not the smallest bearing on the truth value of any of its supernatural claims. There are many intellectual atheists who proudly call themselves Jews and observe Jewish rites, perhaps out of loyalty to an ancient tradition or to murdered relatives, but also because of a confused and confusing willingness to label as religion the pantheistic reverence which many of us share with its most distinguished exponent, Albert Einstein. They may not believe, but, to borrow Dan Dennett's phrase, they believe in belief. One of Einstein's most eagerly quoted remarks is,
"Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind."
But Einstein also said,
"It was, of course, a lie what you read about my religious convictions, a lie which is being systematically repeated. I do not believe in a personal God, and I have never denied this, but have expressed it clearly. If something is in me which can be called religious, then it is the unbounded admiration for the structure of the world so far as our science can reveal it."
Does it seem that Einstein contradicted himself? That his words can be cherry-picked for quotes to support both sides of an argument? No. By religion, Einstein meant something entirely different from what is conventionally meant. As I continue to clarify the distinction between supernatural religion on the one hand and Einsteinian religion on the other, bear in mind that I am calling only supernatural gods delusional. Here are some more quotations from Einstein to give a flavour of Einsteinian religion.
"I am a deeply religious non-believer. This is a somewhat new kind of religion. I have never imputed to nature a purpose or a goal or anything that could be understood as anthropomorphic. What I see in nature is a magnificent structure that we can comprehend only very imperfectly, and that must fill a thinking person with a feeling of humility. This is a genuinely religious feeling that has nothing to do with mysticism. The idea of a personal God is quite alien to me and seems even naive."
In greater numbers since his death, religious apologists understandably try to claim Einstein as one of their own. Some of his religious contemporaries saw him very differently. In 1940, Einstein wrote a famous paper justifying his statement, "I do not believe in a personal God." This and similar statements provoked a storm of letters from the religiously orthodox, many of them alluding to Einstein's Jewish origins. The extracts that follow are taken from Max Jammer's book, Einstein and Religion, which is also my main source of quotations from Einstein himself on religious matters. The Roman Catholic Bishop of Kansas City said,
"It is sad to see a man who comes from the race of the Old Testament and its teaching deny the great tradition of that race."
Other Catholic clergymen chimed in.
"There is no other God but a personal God. Einstein does not know what he's talking about. He's all wrong. Some men think that because they have achieved a high degree of learning in some field, they're qualified to express opinions in all."
The notion that religion is a proper field in which one might claim expertise is one that should not go unquestioned. That clergyman presumably would not have deferred to the expertise of a claimed fairyologist on the exact shape and colour of fairy wings. Both he and the bishop thought that Einstein, being theologically untrained, had misunderstood the nature of God. On the contrary, Einstein understood very well exactly what he was denying. An American Roman Catholic lawyer working on behalf of an ecumenical coalition wrote to Einstein,
"We deeply regret that you made your statement in which you ridicule the idea of a personal God. In the past 10 years, nothing has been so calculated to make people think that Hitler had some reason to expel the Jews from Germany as your statement. Conceding your right to free speech, I still say that your statement constitutes you as one of the greatest sources of discord in America."
A New York rabbi said,
"Einstein is unquestionably a great scientist, but his religious views are diametrically opposed to Judaism."
But, why not and? The president of a historical society in New Jersey wrote a letter that so damningly exposes the weakness of the religious mind, it is worth reading twice.
"We respect your learning, Dr. Einstein, but there is one thing you do not seem to have learned, that God is a spirit and cannot be found through the telescope or microscope, no more than human thought or emotion can be found by analysing the brain. As everyone knows, religion is based on faith, not knowledge. Every thinking person, perhaps, is assailed at times with religious doubt. My own faith has wavered many a time. But I never told anyone of my spiritual aberrations for 2 reasons. 1, I feared that I might by mere suggestion disturb and damage the life and hopes of some fellow being. 2, because I agree with the writer who said, "There is a mean streak in anyone who will destroy another's faith." I hope, Dr. Einstein, that you were misquoted and that you will yet say something more pleasing to the vast number of the American people who delight to do you honour.
What a devastatingly revealing letter. Every sentence drips with intellectual and moral cowardice. Less abject, but more shocking, was the letter from the founder of the Calvary Tabernacle Association in Oklahoma.
Professor Einstein, I believe that every Christian in America will answer you, "We will not give up our belief in our God and his Son Jesus Christ, but we invite you, if you do not believe in the God of the people of this nation, to go back where you came from. I have done everything in my power to be a blessing to Israel, and then you come along, and with one statement from your blasphemous tongue, do more to hurt the cause of your people than all the efforts of the Christians who love Israel can do to stamp out anti-Semitism in our land." Professor Einstein, every Christian in America will immediately reply to you, "Take your crazy, fallacious theory of evolution and go back to Germany where you came from, or stop trying to break down the faith of the people who gave you a welcome when you were forced to flee your native land."
The one thing all his theistic critics got right was that Einstein was not one of them. He was repeatedly indignant at the suggestion that he was a theist. So was he a deist, like Voltaire and Diderot, or a pantheist, like Spinoza, whose philosophy he admired?
I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings.
Let's remind ourselves of the terminology. a theist believes in a supernatural intelligence who, in addition to his main work of creating the universe in the first place, is still around to oversee and influence the subsequent fate of his initial creation. In many theistic belief systems, the deity is intimately involved in human affairs. He answers prayers, forgives or punishes sins, intervenes in the world by performing miracles, frets about good and bad deeds, and knows when we do them, or even think of doing them. A deist, too, believes in a supernatural intelligence, but one whose activities were confined to setting up the laws that govern the universe in the first place. The deist god never intervenes thereafter, and certainly has no specific interest in human affairs. Pantheists don't believe in a supernatural god at all, but use the word God as a non-supernatural synonym for nature, or for the universe, or for the lawfulness that governs its workings. Deists differ from theists in that their God does not answer prayers, is not interested in sins or confessions, does not read our thoughts, and does not intervene with capricious miracles. Deists differ from pantheists in that the deist God is some kind of cosmic intelligence, rather than the pantheist's metaphoric or poetic synonym for the laws of the universe. Pantheism is sexed-up atheism. Deism is watered-down theism. There is every reason to think that famous Einsteinisms like God is subtle but he is not malicious, or he does not play dice, or did God have a choice in creating the universe, are pantheistic, not deistic, and certainly not theistic. God does not play dice should be translated as randomness does not lie at the heart of all things. Did God have a choice in creating the universe means, could the universe have begun in any other way? Einstein was using God in a purely metaphorical, poetic sense. So is Stephen Hawking, and so are most of those physicists who occasionally slip into the language of religious metaphor. Paul Davies's The Mind of God seems to hover somewhere between Einsteinian pantheism and an obscure form of deism, for which he was rewarded with the Templeton Prize, a very large sum of money given annually by the Templeton Foundation, usually to a scientist who is prepared to say something nice about religion. Let me sum up Einsteinian religion in one more quotation from Einstein himself.
To sense that behind anything that can be experienced, there is a something that our mind cannot grasp, and whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly and as a feeble reflection. This is religiousness. In this sense, I am religious.
In this sense, I too am religious, with the reservation that cannot grasp does not have to mean forever ungraspable. But I prefer not to call myself religious because it is misleading. It is destructively misleading because, for the vast majority of people, religion implies supernatural. Carl Sagan put it well.
If by God one means the set of physical laws that govern the universe, then clearly there is such a God. This God is emotionally unsatisfying. It does not make much sense to pray to the law of gravity.
Amusingly, Sagan's last point was foreshadowed by the Reverend Dr. Fulton J. Sheen, a professor at the Catholic University of America, as part of a fierce attack upon Einstein's 1940 disavowal of a personal God. Sheen sarcastically asked whether anyone would be prepared to lay down his life for the Milky Way. He seemed to think he was making a point against Einstein, rather than for him, for he added,
There is only one fault with his cosmical religion. He put an extra letter in the word. The letter S.
There is nothing comical about Einstein's beliefs. Nevertheless, I wish that physicists would refrain from using the word God in their special metaphorical sense. The metaphorical or pantheistic God of the physicists is light years away from the interventionist, miracle-wreaking, thought-reading, sin-punishing, prayer-answering God of the Bible, of priests, mullahs and rabbis, and of ordinary language. Deliberately to confuse the two is, in my opinion, an act of intellectual high treason. Undeserved respect. My title, The God Delusion, does not refer to the God of Einstein and the other enlightened scientists of the previous section. That is why I needed to get Einsteinian religion out of the way to begin with. It has a proven capacity to confuse. In the rest of this book, I'm talking only about supernatural gods, of which the most familiar, to the majority of my readers, will be Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament. I shall come to him in a moment, but before leaving this preliminary chapter, I need to deal with one more matter that would otherwise bedevil the whole book. This time it is a matter of etiquette. It is possible that religious readers will be offended by what I have to say and will find in these pages insufficient respect for their own particular beliefs, if not the beliefs that others treasure. It would be a shame if such offence prevented them from reading on, so I want to sort it out here at the outset. A widespread assumption, which nearly everybody in our society accepts, the non-religious included, is that religious faith is especially vulnerable to offence and should be protected by an abnormally thick wall of respect, in a different class from the respect that any human being should pay to any other. Douglas Adams put it so well in an impromptu speech made in Cambridge shortly before his death that I never tire of sharing his words.
Religion has certain ideas at the heart of it which we call sacred or holy or whatever. What it means is, here is an idea or a notion that you're not allowed to say anything bad about. You're just not. Why not? Because you're not. If somebody votes for a party that you don't agree with, you're free to argue about it as much as you like. Everybody will have an argument, but nobody feels aggrieved by it. If somebody thinks taxes should go up or down, you're free to have an argument about it. But on the other hand, if somebody says, I mustn't move a light switch on a Saturday, you say, I respect that. Why should it be that it's perfectly legitimate to support the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, Republicans or Democrats, this model of economics versus that, Macintosh instead of Windows, but to have an opinion about how the universe began, about who created the universe? No, that's holy. We are used to not challenging religious ideas, but it's very interesting how much of a furore Richard creates when he does it. Everybody gets absolutely frantic about it, because you're not allowed to say these things. Yet when you look at it rationally, there's no reason why those ideas shouldn't be as open to debate as any other, except that we have agreed somehow between us that they shouldn't be.
Here's a particular example of our society's overweening respect for religion, one that really matters. By far the easiest grounds for gaining conscientious objector status in wartime are religious. You can be a brilliant moral philosopher with a prize-winning doctoral thesis expounding the evils of war and still be given a hard time by a draft board evaluating your claim to be a conscientious objector. Yet, if you can say that one or both of your parents is a Quaker, you sail through like a breeze, no matter how inarticulate and illiterate you may be on the theory of pacifism or indeed Quakerism itself.
At the opposite end of the spectrum from pacifism, we have a pusillanimous reluctance to use religious names for warring factions. In Northern Ireland, Catholics and Protestants are euphemised to nationalists and loyalists, respectively. The very word religions is bowdlerised to communities, as in inter-community warfare. Iraq, as a consequence of the Anglo-American invasion of 2003, degenerated into sectarian civil war between Sunni and Shia Muslims. Clearly a religious conflict. Yet in The Independent of the 20th of May 2006, the front-page headline and first leading article both described it as ethnic cleansing. Ethnic in this context is yet another euphemism. What we are seeing in Iraq is religious cleansing. The original usage of ethnic cleansing in the former Yugoslavia is also arguably a euphemism for religious cleansing involving Orthodox Serbs, Catholic Croats and Muslim Bosnians.
I have previously drawn attention to the privileging of religion in public discussion of ethics in the media and in government. Whenever a controversy arises over sexual or reproductive morals, you can bet that religious leaders from several different faith groups will be prominently represented on influential committees or on panel discussions on radio or television. I'm not suggesting that we should go out of our way to censor the views of these people, but why does our society beat a path to their door as though they had some expertise comparable to that of, say, a moral philosopher, a family lawyer, or a doctor?
Here's another weird example of the privileging of religion. On the 21st of February 2006, the United States Supreme Court ruled that a church in New Mexico should be exempt from the law, which everybody else has to obey, against the taking of hallucinogenic drugs. Faithful members of the Centro Espírita Beneficiente União do Vegetal believed that they can understand God only by drinking Ayahuasca tea, which contains the illegal hallucinogenic drug dimethyltryptamine. Note that it is sufficient that they believe that the drug enhances their understanding. They do not have to produce evidence. Conversely, there is plenty of evidence that cannabis eases the nausea and discomfort of cancer sufferers undergoing chemotherapy. Yet the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 that all patients who use cannabis for medicinal purposes are vulnerable to federal prosecution, even in the minority of states where such specialist use is legalized. Religion, as ever, is the trump card. Imagine
Years ago, I was one of 36 writers and artists commissioned by the magazine New Statesman to write in support of the distinguished author Salman Rushdie, then under sentence of death for writing a novel.
only by drinking Ayahuasca tea, which contains the illegal hallucinogenic drug dimethyltryptamine. Note that it is sufficient that they believe that the drug enhances their understanding. They do not have to produce evidence. Conversely, there is plenty of evidence that cannabis eases the nausea and discomfort of cancer sufferers undergoing chemotherapy. Yet the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 that all patients who use cannabis for medicinal purposes are vulnerable to federal prosecution, even in the minority of states where such specialist use is legalized. Religion, as ever, is the trump card. Imagine members of an art appreciation society pleading in court that they believe they need a hallucinogenic drug in order to enhance their understanding of impressionist or surrealist paintings. Yet when a church claims an equivalent need, it is backed by the highest court in the land. Such is the power of religion as a talisman.
17 years ago, I was one of 36 writers and artists commissioned by the magazine New Statesman to write in support of the distinguished author Salman Rushdie, then under sentence of death for writing a novel. Incensed by the sympathy for Muslim hurt and offence expressed by Christian leaders and even some secular opinion formers, I drew the following parallel. If the advocates of apartheid had their wits about them, they would claim, for all I know truthfully, that allowing mixed races is against their religion. A good part of the opposition would respectfully tiptoe away. And it's no use claiming that this is an unfair parallel because apartheid has no rational justification. The whole point of religious faith, its strength and chief glory, is that it does not depend on rational justification. The rest of us are expected to defend our prejudices, but ask a religious person to justify their faith, and you infringe religious liberty. Little did I know that something pretty similar would come to pass in the 21st century. The Los Angeles Times, 10th of April 2006, reported that numerous Christian groups on campuses around the United States were suing their universities for enforcing anti-discrimination rules, including prohibitions against harassing or abusing homosexuals. As a typical example, in 2004, James Nixon, a 12-year-old boy in Ohio, won the right in court to wear a T-shirt to school bearing the words, "Homosexuality is a sin, Islam is a lie, abortion is murder, some issues are just black and white." The school told him not to wear the T-shirt, and the boy's parents sued the school. The parents might have had a conscionable case if they'd based it on the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of speech, but they didn't. Indeed, they couldn't, because free speech is deemed not to include hate speech. But hate only has to prove it is religious, and it no longer counts as hate. So, instead of freedom of speech, the Nixon's lawyers appealed to the constitutional right to freedom of religion. Their victorious lawsuit was supported by the Alliance Defense Fund of Arizona, whose business it is to press the legal battle for religious freedom.
The Reverend Rick Scarborough, supporting the wave of similar Christian lawsuits brought to establish religion as a legal justification for discrimination against homosexuals and other groups, has named it the civil rights struggle of the 21st century. Christians are going to have to take a stand for the right to be Christian. Once again, if such people took their stand on the right to free speech, one might reluctantly sympathize, but that isn't what it's about. The legal case in favour of discrimination against homosexuals is being mounted as a countersuit against alleged religious discrimination. And the law seems to respect this. You can't get away with saying, if you try to stop me from insulting homosexuals, it violates my freedom of prejudice, but you can get away with saying, it violates my freedom of religion. What, when you think about it, is the difference? Yet again, religion trumps all.
I'll end the chapter with a particular case study which tellingly illuminates society's exaggerated respect for religion over and above ordinary human respect. The case flared up in February 2006, a ludicrous episode which veered wildly between the extremes of comedy and tragedy. The previous September, the Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten published 12 cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. Over the next 3 months, indignation was carefully and systematically nurtured throughout the Islamic world by a small group of Muslims living in Denmark, led by 2 imams who had been granted sanctuary there. In late 2005, these malevolent exiles travelled from Denmark to Egypt, bearing a dossier, which was copied and circulated from there to the whole Islamic world, including, importantly, Indonesia. The dossier contained falsehoods about alleged maltreatment of Muslims in Denmark, and the tendentious lie that Jyllands-Posten was a government-run newspaper. It also contained the 12 cartoons which, crucially, the imams had supplemented with 3 additional images, whose origin was mysterious but which certainly had no connection with Denmark. Unlike the original 12, these 3 add-ons were genuinely offensive, or would have been if they had, as the zealous propagandists alleged, depicted Muhammad. A particularly damaging one of these 3 was not a cartoon at all, but a faxed photograph of a bearded man wearing a fake pig's snout held on with elastic. It has subsequently turned out that this was an Associated Press photograph of a Frenchman entered for a pig squealing contest at a country fair in France. The photograph had no connection whatsoever with the Prophet Muhammad, no connection with Islam, and no connection with Denmark. But the Muslim activists, on their mischief-stirring hike to Cairo, implied all 3 connections, with predictable results.
The carefully cultivated hurt and offence was brought to an explosive head 5 months after the 12 cartoons were originally published. Demonstrators in Pakistan and Indonesia burned Danish flags. Where did they get them from? And hysterical demands were made for the Danish government to apologise. Apologise for what? They didn't draw the cartoons or publish them. Danes just live in a country with a free press, something that people in many Islamic countries might have a hard time understanding. Newspapers in Norway, Germany, France, and even the United States, but conspicuously not Britain, reprinted the cartoons in gestures of solidarity with Jyllands-Posten, which added fuel to the flames. Embassies and consulates were trashed. Danish goods were boycotted. Danish citizens, and indeed Westerners generally, were physically threatened. Christian churches in Pakistan with no Danish or European connections at all were burned. 9 people were killed when Libyan rioters attacked and burned the Italian consulate in Benghazi. As Germaine Greer wrote, what these people really love and do best is pandemonium. A bounty of $1 million was placed on the head of the Danish cartoonist by a Pakistani imam, who was apparently unaware that there were 12 different Danish cartoonists, and almost certainly unaware that the 3 most offensive pictures had never appeared in Denmark at all. And by the way, Where was that million going to come from? In Nigeria, Muslim protesters against the Danish cartoons burned down several Christian churches and used machetes to attack and kill black Nigerian Christians in the streets. One Christian was put inside a rubber tire, doused with petrol, and demonstrators were photographed in Britain bearing banners saying,
"Slay those who insult Islam, butcher those who mock Islam. Europe you will pay, demolition is on its way." And, apparently without irony, behead those who say Islam is a violent religion.
In the aftermath of all this, the journalist Andrew Muller interviewed Britain's leading moderate Muslim, Sir Iqbal Sakrani. Moderate he may be by today's Islamic standards, but in Andrew Muller's account he still stands by the remark he made when Salman Rushdie was condemned to death for writing a novel. Death is perhaps too easy for him. A remark that sets him in ignominious contrast to his courageous predecessor as Britain's most influential Muslim, the late Dr. Zaki Badawi, who offered Salman Rushdie sanctuary in his own home. Sakrani told Muller how concerned he was about the Danish cartoons. Muller was concerned too, but for a different reason. "I am concerned that the ridiculous, disproportionate reaction to some unfunny sketches in an obscure Scandinavian newspaper may confirm that Islam and the West are fundamentally irreconcilable." Sakrani, on the other hand, praised British newspapers for not reprinting the cartoons, to which Muller voiced the suspicion of most of the nation that the restraint of British newspapers derived less from sensitivity to Muslim discontent than it did from a desire not to have their windows broken.
Sakrani explained that
the person of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is revered so profoundly in the Muslim world with a love and affection that cannot be explained in words. It goes beyond your parents, your loved ones, your children. That is part of the faith. There is also an Islamic teaching that one does not depict the Prophet.
This rather assumes, as Muller observed,
that the values of Islam trump anyone else's, which is what any follower of Islam does assume, just as any follower of any religion believes that theirs is the sole way, truth, and light. If people wish to love a 7th century preacher more than their own families, that's up to them, but nobody else is obliged to take it seriously.
Except that if you don't take it seriously and accord it proper respect, you are physically threatened, on a scale that no other religion has aspired to since the Middle Ages. One can't help wondering why such violence is necessary, given that, as Muller notes, if any of you clowns are right about anything, the cartoonists are going to hell anyway. Won't that do? In the meantime, if you want to get excited about affronts to Muslims, read the Amnesty International reports on Syria and Saudi Arabia.
Many people have noted the contrast between the hysterical hurt professed by Muslims and the readiness with which Arab media publish stereotypical anti-Jewish cartoons. At a demonstration in Pakistan against the Danish cartoons, a woman in a black burqa was photographed carrying a banner reading, "God bless Hitler." In response to all this frenzied pandemonium, decent liberal newspapers deplored the violence and made token noises about free speech. But at the same time, they expressed respect and sympathy for the deep offence and hurt that Muslims had suffered. The hurt and suffering consisted, remember, not in any person enduring violence or real pain of any kind. Nothing more than a few daubs of printing ink in a newspaper that nobody outside Denmark would ever have heard of, but for a deliberate campaign of incitement to mayhem.
I am not in favour of offending or hurting anyone just for the sake of it, but I am intrigued and mystified by the disproportionate privileging of religion in our otherwise secular societies. All politicians must get used to disrespectful cartoons of their faces, and nobody riots in their defence. What is so special about religion that we grant it such uniquely privileged respect? As H.L. Mencken said,
"We must respect the other fellow's religion, but only in the sense and to the extent that we respect his theory that his wife is beautiful and his children smart."
It is in the light of this unparalleled presumption of respect for religion that I make my own disclaimer for this book. I shall not go out of my way to offend, but nor shall I don kid gloves to handle religion any more gently than I would handle anything else. Chapter 2. The God Hypothesis.
The religion of one age is the literary entertainment of the next. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction, jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak.
All right, gang, we made it through chapter 1. Appreciate y'all. That was awesome. Yeah, a lot to think about. Yeah, man. That's why I said this book is crazy, because it's not Richard Dawkins trying to talk about science at all, man. He's really going in on the whole God thing. And yeah, this book was like really emboldened, like really emboldened me. It was a crazy read. Definitely recommend it if you get it. But I think he's just made a lot of great points, especially the one in the end, you know, just about why do we afford it this special kind of respect. You know, I like, you know, James likes to talk about, you know, people with their magic sky daddy. It's a little crazy talk, y'all. But look, here's what we're gonna do. Let's keep it simple. We're gonna go ahead and end this stream. We've had a bunch of fantastic shows today. And it's been super time with Gin and Truth and my one black friend and James and the whole gang and all the way through to ending with the Atheist Crew Book Club. So I think what I'll do is probably end the stream and we'll head over to the ranch and then what I'll do is I'll fire up the casino stream and I'll play some music. I'm gonna let Sam out and sort of get him ready for bed while people kind of gather at the casino, and we'll have some fun, play some games, and yeah, and we'll call it for night from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream, and I'll head back over to the ranch and with the crew and gather. Thank you guys so much for coming to the church. AR, Big Thang, Cameron, Lena, YouTube Punk, appreciate you guys for coming through the sanctuary. And yeah, we'll meet the rest of you guys back at the ranch. And as far as the stream goes, we'll see you over at the casino. In the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens, science bless you all. Poof!
Yeah, well. Too many cars, gotta stay out the way. Especially the streets when they in a rage. I remember my nigga, he caught a case. On a run on the low and he did the race. Caught a body, it ain't really shocked me. Rubbing on demon time since the bottom. All the bro in my yeah, man, we sharing mamas. I wish I could've stayed in from all the drama. Rare roof, we was really there getting money. This then with the place where the rain or sunny. Know my niggas gon' catch me, I ever stumble. Know my team gonna pick up, I ever fumble. Niggas ain't winning, they really punt. In that location, we coming very loud. Guardian niggas, we say the 100 if you been on my block when we kept it coming. The plane cause I carry a lot of weight. FaceTime with my baby, make sure we straight. Breakfast with able to start my day. Chop it with Henny and talk with A. Yo, we crack, it's my dog and we get it back. Champion style, taking devil crash. And somehow I still go when I get the cash. But it ain't never been about the bag. I've been dipping in fashion, I'm about to spaz. Latest release like the sneakers app. So that don't worth more if you sell it fast. Made more off the merch than I did off rap. Made more than merch than you did off rap. Yeah. Made more off the merch off rap, and I ain't even had to mention my DJ Sass, yeah. I'm gone. I said 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 I'm gone, yeah.
Gone. Been going and going, and shit got my main line going crazy. Going, I've been moving strong, remember they tryna play me. Said I'm wasting money doing all these songs, ain't nobody gon' play them. Now a couple months, I don't drop a tape, niggas be like we waiting. You cannot find me in Roddy, we just touching down to Miami. The way the police got these niggas on records, they all need a Grammy. It's all for the family, told my daughter how my car when I'm landing. It's all in the plan, your circle gets smaller when you start expanding. Where we came from, that shit made us so heartless. Fuck what they talking, I do me regardless. I'm not pulling up there without a deposit. Run my money. Pull up a gang, I'ma pull up with goblins. They put in work, but them niggas is jobless. Put in that work, they be saying it's timing. Gotta trust the process. Couple niggas expired, I feel like I'm timeless. Hey, I'm still here, you heard? Do it by my lonely, I don't need no accomplice. How you on that same block for like 5 years, and it's all you accomplish. How, going and gone, going and gone, I'm going and gone, going and gone, going and gone, I'm going and gone, going and gone, going and gone, hey, yo, hey, I'm just saying, going and gone, I'm going and gone, we're still here, going and gone, still